Roman fish sauce was not a culinary accident or a disgusting footnote of history, but a biochemical weapon that helped the Roman Empire dominate the ancient world. And once you understand the science behind why fermented fish guts powered the most successful military machine in history, you will never look at ancient warfare, nutrition, or even modern supplements the same way again. The idea sounds absurd at first, almost comedic, because we imagine Roman soldiers conquering continents through discipline, steel, and tactics alone, yet buried beneath the armor, the shields, and the famous marching formations was something far more fundamental and far more shocking. A daily ration of fermented fish liquid that modern laboratories now recognize as an ancient superfood engineered by accident through ancient fermentation technology. This was not just food, not just flavor, and certainly not luxury, but a dense, shelf-stable source of complete protein, electrolytes, beneficial bacteria, and neurochemically active compounds that gave Roman soldiers a physiological edge no rival army could replicate. What modern science is only now proving through fermentation chemistry, gut microbiome history, and umami science was already operational across the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago, embedded deep within Roman dietary science and military nutrition history. The Roman Empire did not conquer the known world by chance, and it certainly did not do it on bread alone, because bread provides calories. But it does not sustain muscles, repair tissue, or keep an army functional under relentless physical stress. Which is why the ancient Roman military diet depended so heavily on garum, the fermented fish sauce that became as strategically important as weapons and armor. Every Roman soldier carried grain, yes, but grain without protein leads to rapid physical decline, slower recovery, weakened immune response, and ultimately collapse. And meat could not solve this problem because fresh meat spoiled quickly, salted meat required massive logistical effort, and livestock slowed armies down. Garum solved all of these problems at once, functioning as liquid protein, ancient food preservation, and portable nutrition that could survive years without refrigeration while retaining extraordinary nutritional density. This is why Roman soldier rations were calculated not just in bread and wine, but explicitly in fish sauce quantities, because commanders understood that without this fermented backbone, legions weakened, discipline eroded, and campaigns failed. The collapse of armies historically comes not from battle losses but from disease, malnutrition, and logistical breakdown, and Roman garum production was the invisible infrastructure that prevented those failures on a continental scale. From a biochemical perspective, what makes garum extraordinary is the way fermentation fundamentally alters protein structure, transforming whole fish including bones, organs, and blood into pre-digested amino acids and bioactive peptides that the human body absorbs with minimal effort. When fish is layered with salt and left under the Mediterranean sun, naturally occurring enzymes break long protein chains into smaller components that bypass much of the digestive process, meaning Roman soldiers extracted more usable nutrition from less food, a concept modern sports science still struggles to optimize. This process increased protein bioavailability dramatically while preserving omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, and essential minerals, creating one of the most efficient ancient protein sources ever documented. Recent reconstructions of Roman fish sauce show protein concentrations rivaling modern supplements, alongside naturally occurring glutamates that activate umami receptors in the brain, signaling satiety, satisfaction, and nutritional completeness. This explains why fermented fish benefits extend beyond raw nutrition into psychological resilience, because food that tastes deeply satisfying improves morale, cohesion, and long-term compliance. Factors modern military research now confirms are directly tied to combat effectiveness. This is where the science becomes almost unsettling, because garum did not just fuel the body, it altered perception, recovery speed, and endurance through compounds created during fermentation that modern neuroscience recognizes as performance-enhancing. The fermentation process produces histamines and tyramine in controlled amounts, compounds that subtly stimulate neurotransmitters associated with alertness, motivation, and pain tolerance, meaning Roman soldiers received mild cognitive enhancement with every ration. Combined with electrolyte replacement critical for hydration under heavy armor and Mediterranean heat, garum functioned as an ancient sports drink, protein shake, probiotic, and stimulant rolled into a single liquid. Modern fermented food science confirms that regularly consuming fermented fish products improves nutrient absorption, reduces inflammation, and stabilizes gut bacteria diversity, and this gut microbiome history likely explains why Roman legions maintained operational endurance across climates and continents while rival forces collapsed under disease and exhaustion. This was not accidental. It was emergent knowledge refined through generations of observation, experimentation, and military necessity. The industrial scale of Roman garum factories proves this was no marginal tradition, because archaeology reveals entire coastal economies built around fish sauce production, with Roman garum factories discovered from Spain to North Africa operating as sophisticated food technology hubs. At Baelo Claudia, massive stone vats held tens of thousands of liters, supported by saltworks, fishing fleets, amphora kilns, and logistics networks that rivaled modern industrial food systems. Fish sauce archaeology shows standardized production methods, quality grading, and long-distance transport infrastructure capable of supplying frontier legions thousands of miles from the Mediterranean. Chemical residue analysis from shipwreck amphorae confirms garum was shipped in enormous volumes across the Roman Empire food network, forming one of the earliest examples of globalized food logistics. Roman garum production was not primitive, it was optimized, standardized, and scaled, demonstrating an advanced understanding of ancient food technology that Europe would later forget entirely. The loss of this knowledge after the fall of the Western Roman Empire is one of history's greatest nutritional regressions, because medieval armies marched without access to fermented protein sources, relying instead on salted meat and hard bread that caused scurvy, dysentery, and immune collapse. The Roman Empire's secrets embedded in fermentation vanished, and European military history food records show dramatically higher disease mortality compared to Roman campaigns centuries earlier. Meanwhile, the science survived quietly in Southeast Asia, where fish sauce remains central to cuisine and health, preserving ancient fermentation technology through continuous cultural practice. When Europeans re-encountered fish sauce centuries later, they dismissed it as primitive, never realizing it was the same Roman fish sauce their ancestors once considered liquid gold. This misunderstanding delayed Western recognition of fermented food science by hundreds of years, even as modern nutrition circles now rediscover fermented fish benefits under new branding and expensive supplements. What makes this story so compelling is that modern science continues to confirm what Roman dietary science already operationalized, because studies in umami science show that glutamate-rich foods increase satiety and reduce caloric overconsumption, while fermentation chemistry reveals how microbial processes unlock nutrients inaccessible through raw consumption. The Roman Empire did not stumble into dominance through luck or brutality alone. It engineered human performance through military nutrition history, logistics, and biochemical efficiency. Every amphora of garum delivered to a frontier legion represented a strategic advantage that enemy forces could not replicate because they lacked the knowledge, infrastructure, and cultural acceptance required to maintain such a system. Roman Empire food was not indulgence, it was optimization, and garum was the apex of ancient food preservation and functional nutrition. When you strip away the mythology and examine historical nutrition facts through modern scientific lenses, it becomes impossible to ignore that garum qualifies as an ancient superfood by every measurable standard, delivering complete proteins, probiotics, electrolytes, neuroactive compounds, and psychological satisfaction in a shelf-stable form unmatched until the modern era. The obsession Roman soldiers had with fish sauce was not cultural eccentricity but biological necessity, and when supply lines failed, performance dropped rapidly, proving how deeply dependent the system had become on this fermented backbone. Ancient military logistics were not just about roads and wagons, but about biochemistry, preservation, and efficiency, and garum solved all three in a way that shaped the trajectory of Western civilization. The uncomfortable truth is that we mock ancient Romans for their taste in fermented fish, while spending billions rediscovering the same principles through modern supplements, protein powders, electrolyte drinks, and probiotic capsules, all attempting to replicate what ancient fermentation technology already perfected. Roman garum production was not backward, it was brilliant, and its disappearance represents a loss of applied scientific knowledge that humanity is only now reclaiming. The real myth worth busting is the idea that ancient people were nutritionally ignorant, because the Roman Empire's secrets buried in garum reveal a civilization that understood human performance at a systems level long before microscopes, laboratories, or peer-reviewed journals existed. Once you realize that Roman dominance was fueled not just by discipline and steel, but by fermented fish chemistry, the question stops being why Rome conquered the world and becomes far more unsettling: what other ancient food technologies are we still underestimating today?